So welcome back. There's been a major reversal of a trend that skyrocketed after President Obama was elected in 2008. That's according to a new report from the Southern Poverty Law Center that shows the number of far-right extremist groups in the country is plummeting. Now, the center says the number of so-called patriot extremist groups dropped by 19% between 2012 and 2013. But the group says the potential for violence, though, is still very high. The report's author, Mark Potok, writes the same groups that were galvanized by Obama's first election and swelled dramatically as a result were demoralized by his re-election. Mark Potok joins us now. He's, of course, the senior fellow with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Mark, thank you for your time here. Let's first talk about the analysis here, that you've seen this reversal after, and we've talked in the past, it seemed year after year these numbers were ticking up after the election of the first black president.
That's true. They were growing based very largely on antipathy to Obama personally and to what he really represented, which was the demographic change that's going on in this country, the coming, over the next 30 years, loss of a white majority. The growth was absolutely spectacular for 4 years, but I think what really happened in part was when the radical right saw Obama reelected, after so much effort on their part, as well as other forces in the political arena, to kind of dethrone Obama, at this point their reaction was one of real deflation, of dejection. They had done everything they could. They did not expect to see Obama reelected, and yet he was. And at the same time, of course, things like same-sex marriage are advancing very rapidly, and all of that, I think, is really dismaying to these groups.
In your report, you identify what you say is, quote, patriot extremist groups. How do you describe or define those groups that are on the decline, though?
The patriot groups, that is their own name for themselves, patriot groups or Christian patriot groups, are what we all used to call militias back in the 1990s. They are a group that, they are a movement really that is unified mainly by a conspiracy theory, the idea that the government is secretly plotting to impose martial law, to take Americans' guns away from them, to throw anyone who resists into concentration camps that have been built by FEMA secretly, and ultimately to force the United States into a kind of socialistic one-world government, the so-called New World Order. By
some of the numbers that we have, the map of the areas with the highest numbers of hate groups, California 77, Florida 58, my home state of Texas 57 here. While that number, that declining number, certainly I think should make people feel positive about this country and our ability to be an inclusive country, you still say that there's a potential for violence and that it is still very high. What does that mean?
Well, I think that's very true. The reality is that when you look at patriot and hate groups together, there are still more than 2,000 of them operating in this country. According to our counts at the Southern Poverty Law Center, that is still almost twice as many groups as were operating in 1996, right after the Oklahoma City bombing, which was really the previous peak of the radical right. A lot of these groups have gotten essentially leaner and meaner. Some of the moderates have fallen away, and we're left with angrier, kind of hardcore groups that I think have the potential to produce just as much violence as we've seen from the radical right over the last several years.
Fascinating information, Mark. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.